Imagine the vast, unforgiving expanse of the Pacific Ocean. It is a staggering stretch of deep, unmonitored blue, a perfect void for those wishing to move entirely unseen. Yet, beneath these rolling waves, an invisible empire is quietly shifting its architecture, constructing shadowy pathways that authorities are struggling to comprehend. When two cousins from the Malaita province of the Solomon Islands set out into their local waters on what seemed like a perfectly ordinary morning, they expected to find nothing more than the day's usual catch. Instead, bobbing aimlessly in the tranquil surf, they stumbled upon an unfathomable anomaly that would soon send shockwaves through international intelligence agencies. What they found drifting just offshore was a 17-meter-long fiberglass phantom. It was a marvel of dark engineering, stripped of its mechanical heart, but echoing with the undeniable proof of a massive illicit enterprise. The vessel was designed to sit incredibly low in the water, a sleek, almost entirely submerged profile painted in oceanic hues, specifically engineered to evade the world's most sophisticated aviation radar and maritime patrols. Upon closer inspection, local authorities realized this was no ordinary maritime wreckage. Intact high-capacity fuel lines, heavy-duty engine mounts, and a shockingly cramped claustrophobic enclosed control cabin pointed to a highly specific chilling origin. The craftsmanship and design signatures were unmistakably South American. It was a purpose-built semi-submersible, meticulously constructed in the hidden coastal mangrove swamps of Colombia, now marooned nearly 10,000 kilometers away from its birthplace. But what truly baffled seasoned investigators wasn't merely the sheer, impossible distance this craft had traveled across the globe, it was the calculated condition in which it was abandoned. The massive, expensive diesel engines had been deliberately and meticulously removed. The vast cargo hold, capable of carrying tons of product, was entirely empty. This was not a distressed vessel that had tragically lost its way in a violent storm. This was a sophisticated machine that had flawlessly executed its objective. Its staggering payload had clearly been offloaded securely at sea, smoothly transferred to smaller, inconspicuous local fishing boats, and the million-dollar fiberglass shell was simply discarded like worthless packaging. Astonishingly, this was far from an isolated incident. This eerie discovery marked the third time in a single year that a ghost ship of this exact caliber had washed up in the Solomon Islands. To understand why these oceanic behemoths are suddenly surfacing a mere 3-hour flight from Brisbane, investigators had to analyze the global economic map of illicit logistics. Traditional transit corridors through the Americas and Southeast Asia have transformed into heavily monitored fortresses. Squeezed by this relentless international pressure, powerful cartels were forced to pivot. They turned their gaze toward the vast, quiet corridor of the Pacific, setting their sights on the incredibly lucrative markets of Australia and New Zealand, where the retail value of illicit substances remains among the highest on the planet. The financial gravity of this operation was immense, setting the stage for a baffling mystery of modern supply and demand. To trace the origins of these aquatic phantoms, investigators had to look far beyond the tranquil reefs of the South Pacific, turning their attention to the dense, unforgiving coastal jungles of Colombia. Here, hidden deep within twisting mangrove swamps, some of the most powerful criminal syndicates in the world, such as Clan del Golfo, operate clandestine shipyards that rival legitimate naval engineering facilities. What began decades ago as crude, clumsy wooden crafts barely capable of navigating short coastal distances has undergone a breathtaking, high-tech evolution. Driven by the relentless pressure of international maritime enforcement, these organizations began recruiting former naval mechanics and skilled engineers, funneling endless resources into a dark research and development program. The result is a fleet of fiberglass marvels, specifically designed to vanish into the vastness of the open ocean. Modern semi-submersibles are masterpieces of evasive engineering, built with reinforced hulls, massive fuel capacities, and advanced navigation arrays that include satellite-linked communication and pinpoint GPS tracking. They are constructed to operate with only a fraction of their structure, breaking the water's surface, often just a short exhaust pipe and a tiny, claustrophobic command module, rendering them nearly invisible to conventional radar and patrol aircraft. The latest iterations can effortlessly carry between 4 and 10 tons of illicit cargo, traversing roughly 10,000 kilometers without a single resupply stop. This incredible range allows them to bypass heavily guarded traditional smuggling routes in the Americas and the Caribbean entirely, carving a direct, unmonitored path from the South American coastline straight to the lucrative waters surrounding Oceania. recent intelligence gathered from seized crafts suggests that syndicates are now actively experimenting with unmanned remote-controlled vessels, aiming to completely eliminate human risk while pushing the absolute boundaries of oceanic endurance. The financial mechanics driving this relentless innovation are staggering and difficult to overstate. Constructing one of these highly specialized vessels requires an investment of roughly $1 to $2 million. However, the cargo concealed within its cramped hull can command hundreds of millions of dollars once it successfully reaches the streets of Sydney or Auckland. This immense economic imbalance means that even if massive international initiatives like Operation Oriona, coordinated enforcement effort involving over 60 countries, intercept multiple submarines and seize hundreds of tons of product, the successful arrival of just a single vessel will completely offset the operational losses and generate monumental profits. Consequently, cartels view these expensive submarines as entirely disposable, a mere temporary cost of doing business. The human element is treated with similar, cold calculation. Recruiting operators for these incredibly perilous journeys is alarmingly easy in regions where economic desperation is rampant and syndicate influence is absolute. Crews are paid a minuscule fraction of the shipment's ultimate worth, willingly risking the treacherous, psychologically taxing voyage across the deep Pacific for a chance at a modest payday. This ongoing cat-and-mouse game between global law enforcement and illicit engineering has transformed the Pacific Corridor into a high-stakes arena where limitless capital dictates the rules, pushing the boundaries of criminal ingenuity further into the abyss. As these sophisticated vessels navigate the crushing depths of the Pacific, an equally complex network operates entirely within the digital shadows. A common misconception regarding these international operations is the assumption of a direct partnership between South American producers and the distributors in Oceania. In reality, the architecture of this illicit trade is heavily layered, deliberately designed to insulate the architects from any direct exposure. The Australian syndicates demanding the product almost never communicate with the cartels manufacturing it. Instead, they rely on a specialized tier of international brokers. These shadowy intermediaries orchestrate massive transactions from luxurious safe havens scattered across the globe, primarily operating out of Dubai, Malaysia, or Hong Kong, utilizing encrypted messaging platforms and arranging discreet meetings in neutral territories like Fiji or Manila. These facilitators negotiate the shipments, organize the transport, and manage the staggering financial logistics. The economic structure is a masterpiece of evasion. Shipments are frequently provided on credit, with the astronomical payments settled only after the product reaches the streets of Sydney. The resulting capital flows entirely outside the traditional banking sector, utilizing a complex web of cryptocurrency transfers and phantom shell companies. However, the true logistical genius of this operation, and perhaps the most staggering twist in this unfolding narrative, lies not in the digital realm, but on the sun-drenched shores of the Pacific Islands themselves. When a massive shipment finally reaches the end of its oceanic journey, the primary receiving syndicate does not simply sail out to collect the cargo. They require a highly capable ground force to offload the vessel, secure it in hidden coastal caches, and meticulously repackage the multi-ton payload. Ironically, this vital piece of the illicit infrastructure was inadvertently supplied by the very authorities attempting to dismantle the trade. Through stringent immigration regulations, specifically Australia's 501 deportation policy, numerous individuals with extensive histories in organized syndicates, including notorious motorcycle factions, were forcefully relocated to New Zealand and various Pacific nations. Instead of neutralizing the threat, this mass exodus of experienced operatives inadvertently seeded the islands with a ready-made criminal workforce. These banished individuals arrived, armed with operational knowledge, established global contacts, and a deep understanding of how to maneuver vast quantities of product discreetly through maritime ports. They swiftly forged alliances with local port workers, fishermen, and community leaders, essentially transforming the tranquil island nations into fortified stepping stones for the global supply chain. By leveraging this sophisticated network of exiled specialists, international syndicates have secured highly competent partners, perfectly positioned along the transit route. The very policies designed to cleanse domestic shores of organized crime have unwittingly engineered an incredibly resilient, transnational bridge, forever altering the strategic landscape of the vast Pacific Ocean. The Pacific Island nations, once viewed merely as geographical conveniences by international syndicates, are now facing an unfathomable crisis. These fragile paradises are no longer just stepping stones in a vast logistical chain. they are actively being consumed by the very trade they facilitate. A recent government advisory issued a stark warning that several of these nations are teetering on the precipice of becoming compromised by criminal influence. This means heavily funded networks have the potential to undermine local governance, law enforcement, and legitimate business sectors. The sheer wealth of these global enterprises dwarfs the gross domestic product of many island states, allowing syndicates to purchase silence and cooperation. This silent invasion has taken a particularly devastating toll on the local communities. To minimize cash transfers and maximize local dependency, syndicates have begun paying their island facilitators and port workers directly with the product itself. This insidious strategy has rapidly transformed tranquil transit hubs into desperate domestic markets. Fiji, for example, is currently grappling with a severe, fast-growing addiction crisis, watching helplessly as public health harms skyrocket. Yet, a far more terrifying threat is looming on the horizon. Recent wastewater testing in Fiji has revealed the chilling presence of fentanyl. The potential circulation of this highly potent, heavily synthetic substance throughout the Pacific could easily funnel straight into the markets of Australia and New Zealand. Authorities view this as a severe risk, knowing the catastrophic history of this substance in other nations. In response to this expanding oceanic empire, international authorities are mounting a formidable defense. Coordinated efforts are leveraging advanced satellite monitoring, intensive maritime patrols, and unprecedented intelligence sharing across borders. However, the ultimate adversary remains the uncompromising vastness of the Pacific Ocean. The geographic reality is a profound disadvantage for smaller island nations that simply lack the naval resources and financial capacity to police their expansive territorial waters effectively. Experts issue a chilling forecast for the years ahead. As long as the monumental demand in cities like Sydney and Auckland remains unchanged, the syndicates will continue to absorb their logistical losses, relentlessly experimenting with advanced, entirely unmanned submersibles to flood the zone. The Pacific Corridor is now inextricably linked to a global supply chain, characterized by limitless funding and ruthless innovation. Without a deeply coordinated regional strategy, enhanced financial tracking, and significantly improved maritime surveillance, these invisible highways will only become more entrenched and sophisticated. The battle for the Pacific is no longer just about intercepting illicit cargo. It is a desperate, high-stakes fight to preserve the sovereignty and the very future of the islands themselves. If you found this deep dive into the hidden world of organized criminal logistics eye-opening, do not hesitate to subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button, share your insights in the comments section below, and consider supporting our ongoing investigative work through the Super Thanks feature. Your support keeps us motivated to uncover these baffling mysteries. Stay tuned, stay curious, stay awesome, and take care.